Commander's Log, Stardate 150315. It is with deep regret that I begin yet another entry with a moment of silence. Actually, this time for two individuals. This is one I should have done a couple weeks ago. Maurice Hurley, born August 16th, 1939, died February 24th, 2015 at the age of 75. He was a co-executive producer of Star Trek The Next Generation, and he is the individual who had the brilliant idea of introducing the Borg to the Next Generation. That is who the Borg eventually became a big bad guy in the series, in the saga actually, being seen a few more times in the Next Generation, being featured in Voyager, and even having their own feature film, First Contact. And the second moment goes to Harve Bennett, born August 17th, 1930, died February 25th, 2015, shortly after Leonard Nimoy passed away. Or was it before? His death was... Looks like he died before Leonard. However, his death was reported after Mr. Nimoy's. Harve Bennett was the creative genius, the production genius, who was able to bring us Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, The Search for Spock, The Voyage Home, and The Final Frontier by reusing sets and creating costumes and basically reusing anything in production that he could, when he could. He even had a cameo appearance as the admiral that sent Captain Kirk and crew to Nimbus 3 in Star Trek V. I ask you all to pause for a brief moment and reflect upon these two creative geniuses. To you both, pay tribute with the fireball. Thought my glass was broken. Ooh, that'll open the sinuses if you're not ready for it. Alright. Now that we got that out of the way, we can move on to business as usual.
And what is it? A question.
This week's entry is brought to you by the Facebook page Live Long and Prosper, commanded by Captain Christine Hope, inspiring all around the world for peace and long life. Keep in mind, your mind matter. Live long and prosper. And you, Captain, live long and prosper as well.
Are you machine or being? I am both, and neither. I am my own beginning,
All right.
my own ending.
Let's bust out this week's beverage.
I see no reason for answers to be couched in riddles.
This week's beverage, Big Eddy Cherry Doppelschwarz. 8.5%. I've had it before. This is my last one. I'm going to try to track down some more real fast. Proper opening apparatus, proper technique.
Time portal, Captain. A gateway to other times and dimensions, if I'm correct. As correct as possible for you. Your science knowledge is obviously primitive. Really? A noise mark? Behold.
What you've just heard was dialogue between Captain Kirk, Mr. Spock, and the Guardian of Forever from the episode The City on the Edge of Forever. Probably one of my all-time favorite Star Trek episodes. I think definitely my favorite of the first season of the original series. Cheers to y'all. Kaplach, as they'd say in the Klingon Empire. Alright, good stuff. Folks, got to start out right. Got to start out with the birthdays. First one from the 9th. I don't have very many this week. First one from the 9th, Mona Hawks. Mona, how you doing, sunshine? How's life treating you? Did Kevin spoil you on your birthday? I certainly hope so. If not, I'm going to have a talk with him. Mona, happy birthday to you. Hope you're doing well. Hope Kevin treated you well. And I drink to you. Next birthday on the 10th. A man that's like my stepbrother. He's like a stepbrother to me. He's the son of Debbie Kirk, who's seeing my father, Rick Kirk. Rick, man, what's going on? How's it going? Hope life's treating you well. Hope things are going good for you. Hope you're doing okay. Looking forward to seeing you again here in the near future. A drink to you, my friend. All right. Next two birthdays come to us from the 11th. First one, Wayne Dishner. Now, Wayne, you're a big Star Trek nut like I am too. How you doing, bud? How are things going for you? Hope life's treating you well. I hope you had a good birthday. Cheers to you. I drink to you, my friend. All right, next on the list. Excuse me. Also from the 11th, Tom Mahern. Tom, dude, how's it going? How's life treating you? Living it up in South Carolina. Tom, I hope you had a good birthday. I hope Hannah spoiled you also. Drink to you, my friend. And the last birthday, told you didn't have many. The last birthday comes to us from the 12th, Ann Nimitz. Now, she's a Colts fan like I am. Probably still a little salty about the championship game. Ann, my dear, I hope you had a happy birthday. I hope your husband spoiled you. I hope you enjoyed an adult beverage. If you didn't, I will enjoy this one for you. All right. Birthdays. Done. Excuse me. Let's move on to some additional greetings. First one goes to Renee Phillips. Now, Renee just recently lost her dog. I don't mean lost as in the dog ran off. I mean, her dog passed away. From what I understand, if I remember right, Renee, Amber was 16. Did I do the math right? Did I see a post somewhere? Did I just pull that number out of my butt? Let me know, but I think she was 16, lived a long, healthy, faithful life to you. Renee, I'm sorry. From my heart, I'm sorry. I know what it's like losing a pet. I feel you. I drink to you and your family. Hope everything's going well. Hang in there. You'll make it. All right. Next greeting. Let's give it to my dad, Jeff Dimmitt. Pop, how's it going? How's life treating you? How you doing? I'm doing good, as you can see. I'm looking forward to seeing you here in the near future too. You and I got to sit down. We got to figure some stuff out. But hey, looking forward to seeing you. It's been too long. I can't believe it's been almost 2 years since I've actually seen you. Pop, I can't wait. I really can't wait. Here's to you. All right, next on the list. This is the gal I actually went to high school with. Diane Denny. I knew her as Diane Fallon. Diane, how you doing? I saw recently you're into the It's Work stuff. It Works. You're a It Works consultant. I've used the It Works products before, as you can tell. As you know, I'm kind of a hefty guy. My line of work, I gotta try to keep a nice boyish figure. I'm not doing too well, honestly. But Diane, I'll hit you up on this. I'll hit you up on the side again here soon. Excuse me. I got a couple ideas for you. You know what they say about ideas? They're kind of like buttholes. Everybody has them. Some of them stink. But hey, I'm here to help you. I'll help you out however I can. You know what? Let's drink. All right. Next on the list. She's a sweetheart. She's just a lovely person. She is a very, very skilled artist. She is the mother of my brother, Kyle Mattingly, the one and only Pam Bliss. Pam, sweetheart, how the hell are you? How's life treating you? I hope things are going good for you. I saw where you liked my post about the Cheaters Super Bowl ring coming out this year. God love you. Thanks for sharing it. The prosperous salute to you and I drink to you. Next up, this next gal I met off of one of the Patriots haters groups out there. Colts fans, Patriots haters, welcome. Antoinette Gurule. I butchered that. I am so sorry. Antoinette, how are you, sunshine? Looking forward to this year's Colt season. I'm going to touch the free agency here in a little bit. Antoinette, they call you anything for short? Hit me up. Let me know. Let's drink. Next on the list, another gal I met, another Colts fan, Theresa Shively. Theresa, how you doing? Hope things are going well for you. Hope you're looking forward to football season this year like I am. I don't know. I'm really looking forward to it this year. I hope it's a good season. Let's drink. Let us drink. All right. Excuse me. Next on the list. Now, this guy I have yet to meet in person, but he and I have a mutual friend and one, Josh Baker. I'm talking about Ivan Barba. Ivan, what's up, man? Saw not too long ago where you and your son were enjoying a monster truck rally. You were in a Red Sox hat. Now, I'm gonna divert here a little bit, go off into a little bit of a tangent. Indiana does not have a hockey team and a baseball team, and I'm not a basketball fan. But I will say this. If I had to pick a baseball team, I would most likely pick the Boston Red Sox. They seem to be a classy organization. They're true underdogs. They're true underdogs. Going, what was it? Josh Baker, I know he will correct me on this, but I think they went 84 years between World Series victories. I'm tired. I'm sorry, I'm tired. But I think they went 84 years between World Series victories. Correct me on that. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. It is what it is. Don't really have a baseball team to follow, but hey, I'll root for the Sox. Why not? What the hell? But Ivan, hope life treats you well. Let us drink. All right, and last on the list, a really good dude. I know him from Germany. Worked with him there. Really good dude. He's one of my best friends at my job. He was one of my best friends in the section in Germany. I'm talking about you, Mike Rhodes. How you doing, bud? How's life treating you? I remember when we went to go see Into Darkness together. You, me, and about maybe 4 others. I had fun that night. I really did. The wife was away. I needed to get out of the house that night. I needed the diversion. Thanks for going. I really appreciate it, bud. Let's drink. Greetings. Done. Excuse me. Let's move on to this week in Trek history. Not much happened this week. We only had one event worthy of reporting. March 11th, 1989. March 11th, 1989. Anton Yelchin. Who's he? You're probably asking. He plays Chekhov in the JJ version of Star Trek. He is 26 years old on the 11th. Happy birthday to you. The Prosper Salute. And we drink, you kid. All right, Trek history. Done. I want to talk about free agency real quick. Now, some of y'all aren't football fans, and some of y'all could care less about free agency. Others just care about, hey, how's my team going to do? Are we going to go to the Super Bowl? I'm in that category. I'm on the line, off the line, but free agency. The Colts did some serious business in free agency. We signed Andre Johnson. We signed Frank Gore. We signed a few names on defense. Trent Cole, I think, was one of them. These are big hitters. They are going to do us good this year. I have a good feeling they're going to be worthy of the horseshoe. They're going to send us to Santa Clara this year. I have good feelings. I also noticed that the Patriots have been losing people, but haven't been picking anybody up. Ha ha ha. Karma, bitches. I love it. But anything can still happen. They haven't actually gone to the draft yet, from what I'm understanding. Anything can still happen. It can still be a good year for us. It could be a bad year for us. We'll see. I'll wait until we get to regular season. All right. Let us go into the historical database. You heard us talking about the Guardian earlier. This week's entry, the city on the edge of forever. After taking an accidental overdose of cordrazine, Dr. Leonard McCoy goes back in time and changes history. This one was a big one. Like I said, this was probably my favorite of the first season. Maybe one of my it's definitely one of my favorites of the entire series. The title of this episode refers to both the dead city on the time planet and New York itself, where the timeline will either be restored or disrupted. In Harlan Ellison's original script, Kirk, upon first seeing the city sparkling like a jewel on a high mountaintop, reverently says it looks like a city on the edge of forever. In Ellison's first treatment of the episode, the city they traveled back in time to was Chicago. I got mixed feelings. Actually, it really doesn't bug me. When asked in a February 26, 1992 interview whether the makers of this episode consciously intended it to have the contemporaneous anti-Vietnam War movement as subtext, associate producer Bob Justman replied, "Of course we did." In the Star Trek Compendium, Alan Asherman suggests that the name Keeler is derived from the keel of a ship, the longitudinal element of a vessel that keeps it held together, much as Keeler herself keeps the time continuum from coming apart. It could also be interpreted as a hybrid of killer and healer, a reference to her dual role as the focal point of the time flow. In Ellison's first treatment for this episode, Edith's last name was Koestler, Koestler. Ellison's original story outline and first draft script did not feature Dr. McCoy, but an Enterprise crewman named Beckwith, who was dealing drugs among the crew. Beckwith murdered a fellow crewman named Lebec, who was on the verge of turning him in, escaped to the planet the ship was orbiting, and went through the time vortex, operated by a mysterious ancient race called the Guardians, and changed history. The Enterprise was gone, and a savage pirate ship called the Condor was in its place, full of renegade humans. Kirk and Spock follow Beckwith through the time portal to 1930 New York City, where Kirk falls in love with a young social worker, Edith Koestler, in the story outline. Finally, with the help of a legless World War I veteran called Trooper, who dies during the episode's action, they find Beckwith. In the end, Kirk does not stop him saving Keeler. He freezes at the crucial moment and Spock prevents her rescue. In a brief epilogue, Spock visits Kirk in his quarters and attempts to console him, saying that no other woman was offered the universe for love. Kind of confusing. I like that idea, but either way, this one was a good story. I don't care if they went with the first version or the one they showed. This was still a good story. In Ellison's very first story outline, Beckwith was sentenced to death after he murdered Lebec, and Kirk ordered his execution to take place on the next deserted planet the Enterprise comes across. Hence, they beamed down with Beckwith and a firing squad to the Guardian planet. This was very soon eliminated from the story. Glad they did. I'm really glad they did. Ellison also wrote scenes in which the regular characters acted very much unlike their usual behavior. For example, Kirk and Spock got into a heavy argument when Spock, witnessing a street speaker calling out against foreign immigrants, called the human race barbaric. Kirk then claims he should have just left Spock to be lynched by the mob. Whew! Man, you talk about darkness. Holy shit. Pardon my language. Ellison's script was unusable for the series for many reasons. Gene Roddenberry objected to the idea that drug usage would still be a problem in the 23rd century and even present among starship crews. Also, the production staff was heavily against Kirk's final inactivity. It seemed that being unable to decide and act, viewers could never be able to accept him as a strong leader figure in later episodes. Elements, such as the Guardian and the Condor and its crew, were simply impossible to create on the series budget. Yeah, I see that. Originally, then story editor Stephen W. Karabatsis got the job to rewrite Ellison's script, but his draft was not used. Instead, Ellison agreed to make a rewrite himself, which was again deemed unsuitable. Producer Gene Kuhn also got himself into the rewriting. Finally, the new story editor, D.C. Fontana, got the assignment to rewrite Ellison's script and make it suitable for the series. Fontana's draft was then slightly rewritten by Roddenberry to become the final shooting draft. Much of the finished episode is the product of Fontana, who went uncredited, as did all the other writers, for her contribution. Only 2 lines from Ellison's original teleplay survive in the final episode, both spoken by the Guardian. Since before your sun burned hot in space, since before your race was born, and time has resumed its shape. Kuhn is mainly responsible for the small comical elements of the story, including the famous rice picker scene, which Ellison has reportedly hated. Well, if it worked. Ellison was dismayed with the changes Roddenberry and Fontana made to his story, so much so that he wished his credit to read, written by Cordwainer Bird, a request Roddenberry denied. Though Ellison had the final right to have his pseudonym attached, he claims that Roddenberry made veiled threats, and if he did so, would be blackballed in the television and motion picture industry. Despite this feud, Roddenberry would list this as one of his top 10 favorite episodes in an issue of TV Guide celebrating the 25th anniversary of Star Trek. In his own defense, Ellison stated that he had no real problem with DC Fontana rewriting him, but rather with the extent and number of unpaid rewrites the studio and network got out of him. To say nothing of exaggeration-prone Gene Roddenberry telling fans that Ellison's script showed Scotty selling drugs. The script did not feature Scotty at all. Whew. Man. Roddenberry apparently denied Ellison's pseudonym request because he knew everyone in the science fiction community was aware that the Cordwainer Bird credit was Ellison's way of signaling his dissatisfaction with the way production people treated what he wrote. It would have meant that Star Trek was no different than all the other science fiction shows in mistreating quality writers, and could have resulted in prose science fiction writers avoiding contributing to the program. I see that. I'm honestly glad he didn't attach a pseudonym. If he would have, can you imagine where we'd be now? Excuse me. This was the most expensive episode produced during the first season, with a budget of $245,316, and also the most expensive episode of the entire series, except the 2 pilots. The average cost of a first season episode was around $190,000. Also, production went 1.5 days over schedule, resulting in 8 shooting days instead of the usual 6. Joe Pevney was chosen to direct on this episode because of his experience in directing more than 20 feature films. It shows. There is a scene in the original 1960s broadcast version that has been partially deleted in some editions. When McCoy meets Rodent holding the milk bottle, the scene ends with McCoy collapsing, then cuts to McCoy meeting Keeler in the mission. As originally filmed, McCoy collapses, Rodent picks McCoy's pocket and takes his hand phaser, which he took from the transporter chief, and accidentally sets it on overload and kills himself. Excuse me. The scene is present in its original form in DVD and Laserdisc versions. The network heavily objected to Kirk's last line, "Let's get the hell out of here," and wanted it to be removed from the episode. Excuse me. The word hell was used 4 times in the original series. The other 3 being Space Seed when Kirk quotes Milton, "It is better to rule in heaven than serve in hell." The alternative factor when Lazarus tells his counterpart, "I'll chase you into the very fires of hell." And the Doomsday Machine when Matt Deckard describes the Berserker as right out of hell. City marks the only time that the word was used as an expletive rather than a reference to the domicile of the damned. The footage seen through the time portal is, for the most part, lifted from old Paramount films. The set used for New York City in this episode, called 40 Acres, is the same set used for the Andy Griffith Show. While Kirk is walking with Edith Keeler, they pass the courthouse and Floyd's barbershop. The same backlot was used for location shooting in Miri and The Return of the Archons. The alley in which Kirk steals the clothing from the fire escape is the same alley seen in Miri, in which Spock and the guards have debris dumped on them by the children. Director Joe Pebney couldn't complete all scenes scheduled to be filmed at 40 acres on schedule. However, the backlot was already booked for filming by the Andy Griffith Show. So the arrival of McCoy to the past and Rodden's death had to be filmed on a studio alleyway behind Desilu Stage 10. Desilu Stage 11, usually not a Star Trek stage, was used for filming the mission interiors. The stage was occupied by My Three Sons previously, but as that series was moved to another location, it became available for the crew to film. The stock footage shot of the outside of Kirk and Spock's flop, seen after the man kills himself with McCoy's phaser, shows the sign for a fallout shelter on it. There were, however, no nuclear weapons in the 1930s, or 1930 itself. The Guardian of Forever was designed by art director Roland M. Brooks. Normally, set design was the purview of his colleague Matt Jeffries, but due to illness, Brooks took over his chores for the Guardian. When Jeffries returned to his duties and saw the donut-shaped set piece for the first time, he reportedly exclaimed, "What the hell is this?" according to story editor Fontana. Special effects artist Jim Rugg was responsible for the lighting effects for the Guardian. Together with Jeffries, Rugg was also responsible for Spock's computer aid to access information in his tricorder for the episode. As Jeffries recalls, when a script came out, Roddenberry would say, "I need something that supposedly does such and such. Come up with something." So we would work together on the workbench with Jimmy Rugg and see what we could cobble together. To which Rugg added, "We got a bunch of antique vacuum tubes, real 30s types, and added a few blinking lights among them." Rugg subsequently oversaw its destruction in the episode. Ah, full circle. You gotta love full circle. Due to copyright issues, the original Ray Noble recording of Goodnight Sweetheart was replaced during the 1980s by another version for VHS and Laserdisc releases. However, Paramount's 1980s television classics home video release of this episode retains the original recording. Eventually, this was corrected for the DVD release. New music also composed for this episode, incorporating the song, but the composer of the music is not credited. According to The Music of Star Trek, Fred Steiner takes credit for scoring new music, although sparse only a few cues, for this episode. Most of the episode was tracked with prior music, including Joseph Mullendore, Gerald Fried, and Alexander Courage. Also, music from Shore Leave is heavily present, including the score for the police chase, and some humorous cues in certain scenes. Most of the music accompanying the romance of Kirk and Edith Keeler are taken from The Conscience of the King. Stock footage from Dagger of the Mind and The Naked Time is used for Kirk's and Spock's reaction shots to McCoy's Cortazine overdose on the bridge. Double exposures allowed Kirk and Spock to leap out of brick walls in this episode. During the speech scene in the mission where Kirk and Spock have sat down to eat their soup, the director repeated and slowed down several close-up shots of Kirk and Spock, taken from later in the scene, and used them as reaction shots during Edith's prognostications. The close-up of the tricorder showing the rewinding video is used several other times throughout the series. No stardate is logged in this episode. B.O. Trimble assigned a stardate of 3134 based on Harlan Ellison's original teleplay, which covered stardates 3134.6 through 8. A comparison of the calendar on the wall behind Kirk and Edith when she calls him and Spock uncommon workmen to the real calendar from 1930 shows that this episode was taking place in May 1930. However, the calendar year and date were taped over, and the month also shows only 30 days. Clark Gable, who was by no means a leading man in 1930, was not the original choice of reference. The final shooting draft of the script has Edith reference a Richard Dix movie, but the crew on the set felt Dix's name wouldn't be familiar to viewers in the 1960s. Good call. Very good call. The use of the song Goodnight Sweetheart is a slight anachronism since the song was first recorded in 1931. Whoops. Talk about taking creative license. Had to think of the term. Edith Keeler tells Kirk, "Let me help." Kirk replies, 100 years or so from now, a famous novelist will write a classic using that theme. He'll recommend those 3 words, even over I love you. Kirk tells her that the novelist will come from a planet circling the far left star in Orion's belt, Zeta Orionis, or Alnitak. This is the first mention of Nazi Germany in Star Trek. A race which adopted a Nazi-style regime also appears in Patterns of Force. Excuse me. The theme is reprised in later shows. On Voyager, The Killing Game, where the Hirogen take over Voyager and use the holodeck to recreate Nazi Germany. And then in the Enterprise episodes 0 Hour and Stormfront, when agents from the temporal Cold War send Archer and the Enterprise NX-01 back to the Second World War. The portal is revisited in the animated series episode Yesteryear in numerous books. In one scene in this episode, a poster can be seen advertising a boxing event at Madison Square Gardens featuring Kid McCook versus Mike Mason. For the Star Trek Deep Space Nine episode Past Tense Part 2, scenic artists Doug Drexler and Mike Okuda created a near replica of this boxing poster for a scene set in 1930 San Francisco. The DS9 poster features the same boxers, and it says that it is their first rematch since Madison Square Garden. Star Trek Voyager also made a small tribute to this episode in Future's End, when Janeway likens late 20th century computer technology to stone knives and bearskins. In the MMO Star Trek Online, the Guardian planet is later revisited by the player and his crew, in which they must go back in time and rescue Moral Paris from the Klingon. I think his name was Bavat. It's been a minute, but I believe that was his name. With regards to the city on the edge of forever, Joan Collins has stated, "To this day, people still want to talk about that episode. Some remember me for that more than anything else I've done. I'm amazed by the enduring popularity of Star Trek and particularly of that episode." Collins adds, "At the time, none of us would have predicted the longevity of the show. I couldn't be more pleased or more honored to be a part of Star Trek history." Miss Collins' memory of her Trek experience seems hazy, however. In her 1985 biography, Past Imperfect, she makes a few errors regarding the episode. For example, in addition to the common mistake of referring to Mr. Spock as a doctor, she identifies her character as Edith Cleaver instead of Edith Keeler, and she also claims that Spock, not Kirk, allowed her character to be killed. A plot point that was not in the version of the script that was actually shot. Most significantly, she claims Edith tried to prove to the world that Hitler was a nice guy. This episode was chosen by William Shatner as his favorite episode of the entire series in the Star Trek Fan Collective Captain's Log DVD set. However, in his book Star Trek Memories, Shatner wrote that The Devil in the Dark was his favorite episode. Therefore, he seems to have 2 favorites. This episode was chosen by Eugene W. Roddenberry, the son of the late Gene Roddenberry, to be his favorite episode. The book Star Trek 101 by Terry J. Erdman and Paula M. Block lists this episode as one of 10 essential episodes from the original Star Trek series. I agree with that assessment. TV Guide ranked this episode number 80 on their list of the top 100 episodes. And folks, that is all I have for that. Down the rest of this guy. Devoid of life is the brain cells of a Sequest fan. Ladies and gentlemen, let's make like Captain Kirk in this episode, and let's get the hell out of here. It's time for me to depart, so take care, have an awesome night or day. Don't do anything I wouldn't do, and if you do, name it after me. Don't drink and drive, because you might spill your drink, but more importantly, you might kill yourself or someone else, and drinking and driving is more illogical than being a Sequest fan. The only thing worse than that is rooting for that cheating crybaby, Tom. Giselle won't let me go to the Pro Bowl, and I like soft balls, and Bill doesn't touch me anymore. Brady, men slapping women, racism, animal abuse, fake friends, people who welch on bets, or anyone who is a member of, supports, or defends the Westboro Baptist Church that couldn't picket Leonard Nimoy's funeral. Things like that are highly illogical, and I will not make time for them. Ladies and gentlemen, this one was an outright pleasure to bring to you. I hope I would make one final suggestion before I officially sign off. But if you ever want to try to get into Star Trek, this is one of the episodes to watch that will. This is one of them. This is one of the ones that is good. It's a good example of good writing. It's one of the first stories filled with heart, with some science fiction elements in it. I highly recommend this one to anybody that wants to get into Trek. That being said, I'm out. Live long and prosper.